Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Gotham Knights Season 1, Episode 3. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, we have Carrie doing her Robin thing. Obviously, it's like the city's without its Batman, so she ends up going after the mutant gang. Specifically, she ends up taking down the leader. Obviously, that wasn't the cleanest way of handling that, but I mean, she came through in the end, and obviously the GCPD, in particular Mayor Hill, is taking a lot of credit for it, but for her, it's like, who cares? As long as the city's safer, I've got to fill in the void, that the city's without a Batman, and we really need one, but it's like, for now, I'm going to do my best to carry that mantle, which obviously Duella kind of rubs salt in the wound by making Turner think about, well, it is kind of interesting. You're his son, but he ended up choosing a complete another stranger to carry on this legacy, makes you wonder. It's like, oh, you have to be such a dick, Duella. But I think it's also like her way to kind of compensate with everything, just her own trauma. It's like, it's someone who's super sarcastic and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, it's a defense mechanism. So it's just her way of dealing with the world, and she's probably done it for so long that it's just her default now. So. But there's also the superhero consequence of once you do something, there is going to be fallout from it. And it's because, yes, she took down the mutant gang leader and thought like, oh, it's fine, the GCPD would take down the rest of them. But they end up literally bringing down a blimp. And it's like, yo, if you do not free our leader, we're going to cause more mayhem and havoc. And it's like, right, she thought she did a lot of good. Of like, yeah, I took down the mutant gang leader. Like, I thought I was on top of this, and now more people are going to get hurt because of me. Once again, Duella really rubbing the wound. Like, she loves making people rub their face in like these particular circumstances. She really loves rubbing their faces in it. Also, got to give props to Carrie. She does the Batman thing so well, because when her and Stephanie were talking, and Stephanie got distracted by Brody and turned back around Carrie and being like, oh, she's going. It's like, oh, she does that so well. I love it. It's like, it's a signature thing of like, well, we know it's a Batman thing, but I think everyone in that family does it. I'm sure there were moments Dick did it in Titans. To some extent, I guess you could say Jason's probably did it from my recollection. Maybe we'll get an instance of Tim doing it, one time before the series ends. But either way, I think it's such an interesting dynamic between Carrie and Turner. They're both kind of feeling the respective voids that's kind of been in their lives that the other feels. So Carrie got Batman. Aside of Turner, he never got to know about his father, a secret his father hid from him for whatever reason, which it seems like it has to deal with the fact is that, once again, the thing of, oh, I don't want my darkness to become Turner's darkness. Once again, the big secret that Carrie is keeping from him, that we don't know what it is, but I'd assume it has to have something to do with his parents' murder, and because whatever it is, Bruce is like, if I tell him the truth about it, then he will just follow in my footsteps. Which I think it's kind of interesting, because he's kind of following your footsteps regardless. Your parents were murdered. You ended up like becoming Batman. His parents were murdered. That darkness is there inside of him. And now he's following your footsteps upon you getting murdered. So it's just kind of an endless cycle. But whereas Turner's kind of jealous of Carrie because, hey, you got to know that side of my dad. Carrie is jealous of the fact that Turner had a father. Like, her dad died when she was super young. And like, she hasn't really had that in her life, that connection with a father figure in her life, and the closest she had was Batman, but that's not the same thing as what Turner got, where it's like, hey, he's actually your straight up dad, took you places, like you hung out together, you had memories together. So yeah, she got the superhero side of things, that's awesome, but it's not the same. And once again, it's just that interesting dynamic of, we both want to honor Bruce / Batman, and we're both filling this void inside of ourselves, and that they almost complete each other in certain regards because of what they're kind of missing that the other one had. It's like, oh, you had experiences with Batman, yeah, but you had experiences with Bruce. So it's so interesting. Especially when you break down the dynamic of even more of like, once again, the thing of DC characters of like, hey, who you are as a superhero is who you really are, or your secret identity is your mask. So it's like, hey, you can read that even deeper, being like, arguably she got to know the real Bruce because Batman was the real him. Bruce was just the mask. So I think there's kind of a parallel you can almost like look at in that regard and make it, maybe you can make some argument that maybe Carrie got to know Bruce better than Turner did in that regard. But obviously, like, his dad ended up teaching him quite a lot because that's how he was able to track down Carrie later on. She's like, how were you able to find me? He's like, well, the trajectory of the rocket that brought down that blimp. And it's like, yeah, but there's like 50 warehouses in this area. How'd you find this one? It's like, well, my dad taught me the game of sore thumb. Basically, look around a room and kind of see what doesn't belong. And he was like, yeah, they're like electricity for this place, and there was something else he had said, like there were just clues that he pieced together. So it's like, right, he's kind of got deductive reasoning on his side, and it's like, oh, your dad taught you kind of spatial aware, like what was it? Awareness, kind of like being able to kind of like read a room type of situation. So definitely got those detective skills on lock. So, but obviously this is still early in your career, so you're kind of Batman year one, just kind of like Carrie kind of is. She has a little bit more experience on the crime fighting front, but still, like, I think that's going to be the beautiful thing about this team, that all of them together make one Batman because they all feel some void that, like, you know, like Turner nor Carrie has, because one Batman, like, each one of them has like their individual skills, because Harper is like that, like, hacker, like techie person. Duella's kind of got the criminal mindset. I guess you could make the argument like Cullen's kind of like the master of disguise type of thing, of like kind of blending in, which is kind of like how Bruce kind of took advantage of stuff when he couldn't do that stuff as Batman. He could sometimes do stuff as Bruce Wayne, so kind of fills that void. And obviously you have the more crime fighting side with Cassie and Turner. But also like Turner having like the very like detective mind and stuff like that. So it's just, like I said, I think that's going to be what we kind of get to see, of like all of these characters together equal one Batman type of situation. So they make up for each other's shortcomings, and what they may be lacking, another kind of makes up for it. Another character makes up for it. At least that's why I kind of get a feeling like that might be the direction they end up going with the show. But we get introduced to Brody's parents, and he kind of ends up asking Carrie to go, not Carrie, Stephanie to go to like that founders gala or whatever. And we kind of meet Brody's parents. His mom seems nice, but his dad seems kind of like a dick, but also like the price that is kind of like rough being married to Brody's dad, but also being his son. So it's like, yeah, he has his own familial complications. And it seems like Stephanie might as well, because it's like, oh, we haven't seen your mom in a while. She's like, yeah, she's helping dad out with like the quiz show and stuff like that. Like, the fact is, it felt like kind of like a, yeah, that's what mom's up to, that I'm like, that it feels, I don't know if we, once again, her dad hasn't become a supervillain yet, but who knows what's happening at home, that there might be little elements to it. I mean, that might also be why she's so quick to be so smart. Like, maybe she wants to get out of Gotham to get away from her family. Like, you know, little stuff like that. I don't know. You know, that's probably like me reading way too much into it, but it felt like that response she had given Brody's mom felt kind of like a, there's something there. Like, there's some issues or something that we haven't really explored. You had the mutant gang basically taking they took a whole bunch of chemicals from the Ace chemical factory, and they basically ended up making some poisonous gas, and they were going to use it at the gala if their boss wasn't released. But the bomb was set up to go off either way. You don't release them, it goes off. You do release them, it goes off, and we could use that as cover to get away. They all have gas masks, so they were going to be able to get out of this fight, but they were literally going to mass kill everyone in that building. And I love that Duella's the one that's kind of like, oh, come on, the best way to kind of be so poetic, to go after the people that are toting around about how they took down the mutant leader, and so it's like, yeah, making them choke on their hypocrisy, because that's what happens with gas. It basically, one of the things is like you choke and stuff. So it's like, right. I mean, it also makes sense, like what you would know, you out of anyone would know about poison gas and stuff like that, because Joker's laughing gas and stuff. So you've probably studied your dad enough to know his tactics and how he would do things. I mean, you've probably been around enough criminals, but when you're the daughter of like one of Gotham's, if not Gotham's biggest supervillain, you know, a lot of that's going to rub off of you, especially because of the psychological scars of that. I'm sure she studied who he was to know who he was, but also hate him, because later on, like we find out, Cullen ended up getting her dad's card. I guess it was taken from the first episode when she was locked up, taken into evidence. And she's like, right, it's not, I held onto this card because it's a reminder of how much I hate my dad, but it's because, you know, it's like, why didn't he choose me? Why didn't he want to be with me? Why did he abandon me and my mom? Like, there's a lot of those deeper issues that obviously she's covering with, like, yeah, like, I hate him, but it's also because he didn't love me, and I wanted to love him. And like I said, I think it is the thing of, I know everything there is to know about the Joker, because it is, in my own way, how I feel closer to him. Just like Turner's wanting to do the vigilante thing, because it's his way to feel even closer to his dad, a side of his dad he never got to know. You had Stephanie and Harper when it came to the whole poison gas situation. Harper and Stephanie were kind of butting heads on how to deal with the whole shutting that down, which I love. Carrie's like, yeah, me and Duella ended up taking care of all the mutant leader people, the mutant gang people, except for the ones that are in like the main section of the place. What have you guys been doing? And they had to look at each other, because it's like, yeah, we've been so busy arguing over how to stop the bomb thing from going off. We haven't really done anything. But ultimately, Stephanie took a gamble, cut the switch, and it's like, yeah, it all worked out. But for Harper, it's like, all you've done this entire time, it's like you argue with me like I'm some kind of idiot. You kept looking down upon me. She's like, it's not like that. It's like, yes, it is. The fact of the matter is, you, like, I had an idea, but you didn't even want to listen to it. You're just immediately like, I got this. Boom, took this chance. But it's like, yeah, it's your thought that you are smarter than me, because, oh, you go to this very privileged school and you come from this like very well-off family because of what your family do. It's like, go ahead and enjoy, like, you know, looking down upon me from, you know, your house and like your high tower house and stuff. And Stephanie had that look on her face. Once again, I think it plays into, yeah, things might not all be good at home. That's why I'm like, yes, her dad hasn't become a supervillain yet, but maybe he's tiptoeing towards that, and there's a lot of issues at home. So her home isn't as perfect as, I mean, just like Brody, and that's probably why they probably got even closer this episode when she found out, like, oh, like, things are pretty rough for you. And I don't think, probably not even Turner probably knows things might be rough for Stephanie at home. She's probably keeping that very close to the vest, kind of helping everyone else out without letting them kind of help her out. I mean, except for Brody when he took the fall for everything last episode for her. Turner ended up reaching out to Harvey, because it's like, right, we need someone to trust us when it comes to this whole situation. That's the only way, like, if we could get Harvey on our side, because if we try to tell anybody about, you know, what the mutant gangs really got planned, they're not going to listen to us. And Harvey ultimately did listen to Turner, because Turner came to him. It's like, right, you put yourself at risk coming to approach me, but you did it because you trust me, because your dad did. So, and he tried to tell Mayor Hero, but Mayor Hero didn't want to listen, because he's like, oh, you want to cause a panic? You're just aiming for my job. Which obviously, like, Brody's dad was kind of like, oh, like, don't, you know, you're a terrible liar, trying to make it seem like, oh, you don't care about the mayorship, that you're just doing your job as DA. But it's like, yeah, he wants more. Also, the fact is that it seems like him and Brody's mom have history. I'm curious, is that going to be like a comic book thing of like, yeah, those characters have hooked up in the past? Like, I've never known like Harvey's like relationships in the comics. I've obviously only ever known him as like Two-Face already, and I don't know if he's ever had like a canonical significant other. The one I think of is in the Telltale Batman series, him and Selena Kyle were dating. So, I mean, that's also why she was kind of, well, he didn't know she was Catwoman, but she was already kind of doing her thing as Catwoman at that point in the story. I mean, she had already been pre-established as Catwoman, but yeah, you know, you get what I'm trying to say. So, and he didn't know about that, but I'm wondering, does like Harvey have a significant like well-known significant others in the comics or not, and is this just something they're giving him in the show? Because maybe that's why they also did the Selena thing, because he kind of typically doesn't have anyone. So now you give him an opportunity to have someone. I don't know. I'm curious to see what kind of happens, what comes of that, like what that history is between Brody's mom and Harvey. But Hill didn't listen to Harvey, and yeah, things went super sideways. Yeah, they ended up releasing the mutant gang leader, and it's like, yeah, go ahead and set off the bomb. But luckily, Harvey was there to, tussle with him a little bit. He still pressed the button, but luckily the bomb was shut down by then. So police rolled in. Harvey got the hero punch to the mutant gang person that was running things, and he comes out looking better for it. It helps his reputation, especially as he announces his candidacy. The perfect time to announce his candidacy for mayor. The perfect timing, because at the same time he's making that public speech, Mayor Hill is super dead. Oh no, color me surprised. I'm kind of surprised you died this early, but it's like, once again, that character is never typically around for a very long period of time, especially because you were already in bed with the court, and they were already kind of making a point of, remember your debt. Because it turns out the party had a lot of Court of Owls members there, which I'm curious and wondering, are we going to find out that Brody's dad is one, if not his mom, if not both of them? Who knows? They might be kind of legacies in that regard, but and that'd be even more interesting if that ends up being kind of Brody's legacy. Because once again, it's a conversation of embracing certain legacies in the case of Carrie and Turner, but then like not embracing legacies with Duella and even Stephanie and maybe like I said, maybe Brody. So I think it's probably going to be like his parents are people from the core. You can only assume too that, I wonder, did they have anything to do with the mutant gang? It seemed like maybe that was kind of its own thing. Like the fact is, you end up having to hit a place where a lot of Court of Owls people met. I mean, because the court is supposed to be like the ones who control the city, but like this might also be an indication of kind of the whole point of the founding families. Because I guess like Brody's family is a founding family, because isn't that what that gala is, like a founder's family gala? So isn't his family part of the founding family? So once again, why the court have specifically been going after the Waynes, we don't know. But Turner starts looking into Albert Wayne from like 100 years ago. It seemed like it was just a drowning, but there was talks of, him saying like, oh, the owls are in my house. So trying to figure out what happened to Bruce by starting with what may have been the first murder by the court's hands when it comes to the Waynes. His great-grandfather. But like I said, the fact is that they were able to grab the bomb and sneak it out. And because when Harvey went to try and find the bomb, it was him and the cops were looking, and it was already gone. And so, but we see later on it was used to kill Mayor Hill, because I guess it's like, yeah, you made yourself look like, either one, it's kind of like, hey, you failed us because there were Court of Owls people there. So it's like, you kind of put us in danger or what? Because that is kind of interesting to think that the Court of Owls people could be caught with their pants down like that. And I guess they didn't like being, it's like, right, you're the mayor. We put you in that position for a reason. So, and once again, now that Harvey's kind of put himself in the ring, sadly, the court is going to start backing him. They're not going to let themselves be known as a court immediately. They're going to just be like, hey, we're here to back you. And it turns out he's going to find himself indebted with the court. Once again, like, is that going to parallel with him being, his two-faced self? If that's going to supposed to happen like much later in the story, that's the big thing. Once again, it's the telltale Batman of it all. Man, when are we getting burned face and flipped coins? I'm trying to think. In Gotham, he never became Two-Face, did he? I don't think he did. Well, because Harvey popped up like few times. There was one season he popped up periodically, but I'm like, I don't think he ever became Two-Face in Gotham, did he? It's definitely going to be interesting to ultimately see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.